Transgender from a Heterosexual Man's Point of View, written by Jac Harrison, the Modern Lunatic Blogger. Well, hello there, boys and girls. You see what I did there? Today is a very special day. We are going to learn about gender and boundaries. Now, some of you are more than likely confused by the notion that as adults we need to learn about one of the key foundations of being human beings. But according to a report published in April 2011 by the Williams Institute, 0.3% of the population within the United States finds this confusing and relates to being transgender, while CNN has that number at 1.3 million or 1.43% of the overall population as of March 2017, with 27% of the people that claim transgender relating to something besides male or female. Holy taco hot dogs, Batman. So I think some education may be in order. Since we are now approaching 2% of the overall general population that not only identifies as a gender other than the one that they were born as, and are actively pressuring Congress to pass legislation that I personally believe is infringing on the personal rights of non-transgender people, or better known as the majority, I thought this would make for a great topic of discussion for my new blog. It even has that new blog smell to it, so let's dive right in. The first thing we all need to do is understand what we are talking about here, as in what is transgender. Transgender is when a person's personal identity in relation to their gender does not correspond with their birth sex and is known as gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder, GID. So yes, this is a real thing and I'm not disputing that. But what this article is about is the dysfunctional social interaction and complete disregard to non-transgender people's privacy in public restrooms and school locker rooms. So before I open Pandora's box, that was a vagina joke, I want to make a few things very clear, since the people that will take offense to this article have no regard for the remaining 98% of the U.S. population's personal space or opinion and will assume that I'm a bigot preaching hate when in fact I completely respect all people unless they give me a reason not to on an individual basis. To start, gender is not sexuality, and if you think that transgender and homosexuality are one and the same, you are very wrong and part of the problem. Homosexuality is the word that we use to describe people that are sexually stimulated by other people of the same gender. Emotionally and morally, heterosexual and homosexual people are the same. Homosexual people just get excited in their gender area by other people with the same fun time parts, and it's really nobody's business but their own. Transgender is also not cross-dressing or drag. Many people, heterosexual and homosexual, engage in role-playing, and it does not determine how they relate to their gender on an emotional level. In fact, many drag queens thrive on the fact that they are men that can pull off the look of a woman better than most women can, while some just like to act feminine at times but still identify as their gender. Having spent most of my life in the music industry, I was always surrounded by a few things, including many bandmates over the years that were openly homosexual. And no matter how many times I tried to get my lesbian bass player to come into the bathroom with me and her girlfriend, it never happened. So just get that whole notion of transgender people being aggressive or extreme homosexuals out of your thought process and start understanding their behavior for what it is, a medical disorder. Now, I truly feel bad for an individual that is struggling to relate with their identity. I couldn't even start to imagine the constant discomfort they experience every day. I mean, life is hard enough as it is without the complication of not being okay with who you are at your core. But that also does not give a person the right to force their beliefs on the general population when their beliefs are not only a direct contradiction to what we have always respected about each other as a species, but when it infringes on someone else's rights dealing with their personal privacy. If your perception of reality is that you are at the center and everyone should accommodate your needs without regards to others with a lack of conscience, well, that makes you a sociopath. And these bathroom bills reflect that. They are a complete disregard towards the mental well-being of the majority surrounding privacy. Now, I personally can care less if a woman that relates to being male is dropping the kids off at the pool in the stall next to me at this point in my life, but I would have when I was younger in public grade school. And that is what this all boils down to for me. We are a culture that frowns upon public breastfeeding and nudity on TV to protect our children. From what, I do not know. But they are programmed to be uncomfortable with a public display of nudity and would find it uncomfortable to be naked and or relieve themselves in the presence of a classmate of the opposite gender. So to ask us, the majority, to entertain the idea of making our children uncomfortable in public restrooms and school locker rooms to accommodate less than 2% of the overall population is just absurd. The whole bathroom bill was conceived over the discomfort transgender people experience in public restrooms and locker rooms. So why does a transgender person's emotional stability trump, see what I did there, an emotionally stable child's? I find it offensive that our government would force a child to be uncomfortable when they are most vulnerable. If a person is truly struggling with their identity, they are suffering from a medical disorder, and the whole movement should be treated as so by offering the individual counseling to help them either make the gender transformation or to learn mental coping techniques that will provide them with a better quality of life. So if you miss the point of this, I'm rooting for you, and I hope you find yourself. But with that said, I think you should use the public restrooms and school locker rooms that match the equipment you have so you do not make others uncomfortable. On a side note, I do not see myself ever ending up in prison. But if I do, I would love to have a transgender woman that relates to being a male as my bunkmate. If you have found this article offensive, please tell me in the comment section below. Do you have a topic you would like me to blog about? Email me at modernlunatic@gmail.com.